Where are you? Oops. There you are.
Hi there. I'm Virginia Amos, and we are in the final countdown of our interviews with the city council candidates who will be running in the Democratic primary in June. Tonight, we're going to be visiting with Amy Jackson and Bill Campbell. The Zebra Press and ZTV take do not endorse any candidate. They do not take any stand, but rather present this as a public service. So, without further ado, welcome Amy Jackson.
Well,
there she
hi.
is. Hi.
It's a pleasure to be here with you tonight.
Well,
thank you very much for having me on. I'm excited about this. Always wonderful to work with you all at the Zebra.
Thank you. Full disclosure, my husband met your mother when she was canvassing in our neighborhood.
Well, I'm glad they're working hard out there.
They are. They had a lovely chat out on the street corner, and he was very impressed. So you have a good advocate working for you.
I do. And people say apple doesn't fall far from the tree, right? So yeah,
right.
She's wonderful. She's a very spry. I won't give away her age, but she just turned 80. She'll be 81 in the fall. And everyone says, oh, she's like 65 at least. I mean, she's very youthful.
Exactly what Michael said.
Very youthful. She's a go-getter. Yep.
We like that.
I put her in all the social territories. Where can she be social and use her strengths, right?
Of course. Absolutely. Okay. So before we get into kind of the more serious things, we're just going to do kind of some lighthearted questions to get us started. So how long have you lived in Alexandria?
Well, I grew up here, Alexandria roots. So I grew up over in Fox Chase Apartments and went to the old Patrick Henry that is now the swing space for MacArthur Elementary, and then went to Hammond and on to T.C. Williams. And my mom, when I went to college to Virginia Tech, she that's about the time, maybe about 5 years after that, she moved into Park Fairfax from there. So she was able to save up, but that was everyone's the buzzwords of affordable housing. That's what Fox Chase was. And it's no longer. It's like I was talking to someone the other day, and the rent that we were paying, it's
lost
tripled.
Sound, David.
I'm sorry. What?
Amy's talking, and I can't hear her.
Okay, sorry.
That's okay.
You're back?
No, can I hear?
Oh, well, I'm not.
I've got you now. I know. I'm sure our audience heard you. It just wasn't. It was just me.
It wasn't. Yeah.
Okay. And where do you live now?
We live in right off Braddock Road, across from Episcopal High School. Right up to Fort Ward Park. So we're waiting for all the cicadas. The cicadas are starting to come out now everywhere in the West End, where there are all the trees. So we are seeing a lot of shells and not a lot of moving bodies. So we're just kind of holding our breath, going.
Holding your breath. I can understand that. What 3 words best describe you?
Energetic, fair, thoughtful.
Okay. And what is something that most people would be surprised to learn about you?
I loved roller skating growing up, and about a year right before COVID, I took my oldest, who's now 9, so she was 7, on an early day, and we went down to Manassas because there's no roller rink in Alexandria anymore.
Right.
So we took a little mother-daughter field trip, and she was so surprised that I didn't fall once. I was circles around her, and she was using. They have these great little gates that the kids can use to make sure that they stay upright. So I still roller skate.
Oh, that's fabulous. I love that. I loved to roller skate growing up. And what is your guilty food pleasure?
Oh, does it have to be food? Because I can tell you all. Chocolate. It's chocolate.
Okay.
It's definitely chocolate.
That works. There's a theme among the candidates, trust me.
Oh. could have said any beverage. I can tell you all the beverages that are.
So tell me now, what is are is this your first term on council? Your second term?
This is my first term, so
Okay.
I'm going for re-election for my second term. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Was it what you expected?
Oh. Well, I think it would have been, but we've had a little pause called a pandemic, and so I think I was very excited to be on council. Honestly, I mean, growing up here, Dell doesn't like the story I tell, but I was dropping lit for her when I was about 13, 14 years old in my social studies classes. That was one of the outreach activities that we could do for community service. So, here Dell is been on council 35 years, let alone being amongst council with being an aide and everything else, right, for over 40 years. So it's, I was very excited. So, but I mean, I've often asked myself in the last 14 months, really, we're the seven during a pandemic that we're meant to be up here and getting us all through this and making sure that we're safe and sound, but still progressing with what we need to do in the city. So, we haven't stopped. We've just kind of, made sure that the things going forward are the recovery, that we need, the vaccinations after the testing. I mean, I feel like we've done a really good job, honestly, getting everybody through this. And, but no, it was not what I expected in terms of that particular part, as no one did.
No. And what had propelled you to run in the first place? Was there a certain issue or situation where you said, I need to do something?
Well, so I don't know if you know, but I was on the Commission for Women prior to running, and I was very involved in a lot of the nonprofits and boards and commissions in the city. So when I really started becoming more engaged again in city socializing and our charities and the government, I was really encouraged by a lot of the, I don't want to say the old guard, but I love them dearly because I've learned so much from the older women that have seen where Alexandria's been, like I have, but at different ages, right?
Right.
So they see where it's going, and so I was, it took quite a few conversations from one person in particular to say, I really think you should be running. And so I really had to give that a lot of thought, so I'm an educator, and I have 2 master's degrees in education from George Mason University. And, it's very interesting because my social studies background, this is what I taught. So I'm practicing what I literally preached for so many years in Fairfax County Public Schools was, honor civics and world history and AP World and all that jazz. And here I am. And I just think back to a lot of the students that I've had over the years that always enjoyed my enthusiasm and the discussions in the classroom. And they seriously, I go back and I think and go, they were like, you should run for president. We'd vote for you. And I'm like, no. But here we are. And, all politics is local. That's for sure.
That's right. Well, first, thank you for running. I am in awe of anyone who is willing to put themselves out there for the public. It is often a thankless job, and it takes a lot of time. It's not full time, but it is full time, and I appreciate anyone who is willing to stand up and say, here I am. So thank you.
I appreciate you saying that. I do. Thank you.
So there are a couple of real hot button issues, which we'll kind of dive into. But as you've been out talking to people, and I think this is so important because in Alexandria, there's not a ward system. So you really represent the entire city, and you cover a range of areas. What are you hearing from people as their biggest concerns?
Well, it depends on where I've been walking around and canvassing, because of course we're still in a pandemic. So being out and about, and you don't want to off-put anybody,
Right.
When you just walk up to someone and start talking to them. But from what I can gather, and especially on social media as well, is, a lot of this has to do with transparency in our government.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we can certainly do better. I think we've done well communicating concerning COVID-19, right? Our vaccinations,
Yes,
our testing
I would
centers,
agree.
our signage, our messaging. I think we've done well in that. Now, that being said, I think we need to continue to do well in that, as well as do well in the actual, policy making and the
Mm-hmm.
procedures of our government, because some of that I think misses a beat when we have the mayor, city manager type of government. So, there needs to be, I think, more communication between those two bodies.
Mm-hmm.
Our city staff is amazing, and have gotten us through this. Honestly, we're the figureheads. We're out there. We're doing the policy part, but we're also the ones communicating what the city is doing, because they're so busy doing it that no one realizes what's going on. So I do think that our communications aspect, the techniques that really need to be drilled down on, and I think that will happen as we are in recovery and opening back up. I think we're going to build back better. And I think that COVID-19 has shown, our strengths and weaknesses, put a large light on both. So I think transparency is the overall umbrella of everything else, is probably the biggest aspect. I mean, there are definitely issues throughout the city that Delray could care less probably about, Seminary Road. And then we have the West End that, okay, the waterfront's got more stuff going on down there again, so you saying the ward system, I've thought about that a few times, but I also feel, I prefer to be an at-large candidate, because I like to see how all the pieces fit together. And if I am just in one area, I think that's where something may fall through the cracks. So
That's what I've heard from just about everybody, that
yeah,
they prefer representing the
at
entire
large,
city.
yeah.
I was listening to NPR this morning, and I honestly don't remember the specifics of the program, but it was a phrase that caught my ear, and they're talking about vaccines and about how there were some people who were still reluctant and unsure about information. And so, particularly with nonprofits, they were using what they call trusted safety providers to go out into the community to talk to people and answer their questions. And that trusted provider was really what stuck with me. And it seems to me that at least, I guess it's kind of how I want to think about city council, that I am trusting them to provide the best information and to make the best decisions to provide for my health and my
Right.
quality of life in the city of Alexandria.
I
So it was just a, yeah.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. And I do feel that we are, I mean, we are the messengers, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, but I also feel our health department has been amazing in this
Amazing.
entire amazing. And I mean, we just had Natalie Tallis on one of one of these last meetings that we've just had, and that's exactly what they are doing now. Is they have drilled down so much for the regular community, but now we do have them going door to door, knocking with an interpreter or written
Mm-hmm.
messaging in different languages, to make sure that our community knows that they need to go get vaccinated. It's okay, everybody else is doing it,
Yep.
join the wave. And then we open up sooner, because people are safe and healthy, and we can get out of this and continue on, and be joyful outside of the home.
Exactly. Exactly. So let's just plunge right into Seminary Road.
Okay.
Did you vote for the proposal to change things? The
I did not.
original. Okay. All right.
I was not for the road diet. No, I
Okay.
was not. I was not. So again, growing up here, Seminary Road is, as we all know, whether you grew up here or not, is a major arterial road. It goes east to west, west to east in
Mm-hmm.
our city, and there's only a few other roads that do just that. So especially when we have an exit coming off of 395. And then you have about a block or so that it's 2 lane until it becomes 1 lane again, and now it is 1 lane. It's disconcerting that the way it happened was the way it happened. I I know how much it will cost to change it, but I also don't have the votes on council to do a reconsideration or a revote of that
Okay.
right now. So that's where we are. But I have had a few constituents ask if I'm against bike lanes because of where I landed.
Right.
And the answer is no, I'm not against bike lanes. I'm against bike lanes that take away other lanes that we need in order to have a traffic flow that flows, so we're not stuck in traffic. Bikes are great for exercise, athleticism, a single person or a couple going from here to there, taking our kids to school. If you live near the school and it's safe to do that, then absolutely. But if you're also asking families, I mean, I need a minivan for a reason. I have to get groceries. I have to haul everybody's stuff everywhere when they're in school. They've got backpacks when we pick up, there's a lot of stuff that goes with kids. And I wouldn't feel safe having four
Right.
of us on a bike trying to run errands or get one person to soccer and another to ballet or something. It doesn't work for everybody. So I don't mind bike lanes, but I think the planning of this, again, it goes back to some transparency and
Mm-hmm.
communication that is much needed in our community when it comes to these big projects.
It's, I laughed when you talked about you knew how much it would cost to reverse it. Somebody said to me today that it would cost $7 million. I said, no, 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 no,
No, it doesn't cost that much.
no, no.
No.
And it tickles me because how people get information and how false information gets spread it is such an issue.
It is.
With so many things. And it's one reason I've so enjoyed these interviews is because I feel like I'm really getting some direct answers,
Yes.
and not having to sift through things. So, talking about capital improvement projects, um, Alexandria is getting a ton of money under the American Rescue Plan, which is, like manna
Yeah.
coming down. And the big question is, what are we going to do with it all? And
Mhm.
I know it can be used for water and sewer and broadband, and there is certainly a push
Mhm.
to devote a large chunk to
Mhm.
our stormwater issues because the city has been plagued, just plagued.
Yep.
Is that something that you're in favor of?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I just went out last week and everyone's taking a turn. I didn't do a big to do, but I walked the neighborhood with Katie Waynick of Drain ALX,
Mm.
and other residents in that neighborhood. But she has been a huge proponent of awareness to this particular issue that needed that awareness brought to it. I mean, I know I went down and took a video when it was pouring last fall. It was September, I think, September or October 2020, and went down and just walked Hooves Run and all the roads around it as they were flooding or just now were the water was being mitigated at that point. But it's it's too bad that our infrastructure, our pipes, our drains, our sewers have not been properly maintained. And I think that would have helped. It would have gone a long way for a long time had it been done the way it should have been done on a maintenance schedule. And now our city is doing that. They've come around and they are out there, and people see them out there going into the manholes and trying to figure out how to, clean it. But as soon, it's like any other drain. It's like the shower drain, the sink drain. If it's clogged, you put a snake in it, or you use some, chemicals, and it's there you go. It's great again. It flows. So, those are hopefully things that are being used in the community in a bigger sense. But I also do think that can has been kicked down the road so much that, if you've heard me on other density projects, bringing a lot of people and and I have, we need smart growth because the rest of our community can't handle the impact anymore that a lot of these things bring. So, people have asked, oh, you're not for affordable housing because you didn't go for that project right away. Well, when you aren't looking at how many kids are over enrolled in certain schools in that area, you're not looking at how much impact the drains and the sewers are having, that on those pipes and drains, and then the roads too. And then, and then it causes flooding. And then if you don't have, it's a big chain reaction. I could just go, I told people, you're going to need an hour for me, not a half hour, because I'll just keep talking.
It is. It's challenging when part of that chain reaction, you don't, 90% of the time, you don't see it. We don't see drains. We don't see sewers.
So everyone thinks it's okay because it's invisible, right? It doesn't exist.
Well, you never know your shower's clogged until it actually backs up, and
that's exactly right. That's exactly right. That's a great way to put it. Very logical. Yep. Mm-hmm.
So another hot button is co-location housing, and on school grounds. And from what I understand, and really what I've heard last week and this week, is we are so pressed for space anyway for our schools that it doesn't seem to make sense to put any kind of actual housing on school grounds. Is that what you're hearing?
That's what I'm hearing, yes. And I'm hearing so we have a lot of neighborhoods, of course, with neighborhood schools in them. And a lot of it's been a tough year for parents. I'm the only one on council right now that has 2 elementary school students still in her house because that school's not back full time. And I wasn't going to deal with hybrid. I figure one transition's enough when it happens. I don't need more at one time. The teacher and me, right?
Right.
So, but I do believe that housing should not be on school property. And it's not, everyone goes down the road of, yes, you don't want adults or affordable housing or workforce housing on property that the school is on. That has really nothing to do with why I don't want it on there. I don't want it on there because we don't have the space. And when the schools need to be rebuilt, and rebuilt in a way that, okay, is it still an elementary school? Is it going to be a K-8 school now? Is it going to be one of the high schools of the high school project eventually down the road? You have to think long term. You can't think that in 10 years, this is still going to be for the same group of people. No one can think that way. That's not logical. It's not practical with our money. Honestly, you have to be realistic and go, this space has to be used for maybe other things in the future. So that's what it should be built for, is going into the future. MacArthur's coming down. It was just demolished this week, but that school was built in 1940. I want to say 1943.
Oh my gosh.
Something along those lines. Okay. So, and it's served its purpose, but they also don't make them like they used to, right? So I'm kind of concerned about how far our money is going to go when we're rebuilding, we give this money to the school system to do it. But this is where, our money needs to go as far as it possibly can. And we need to be making these decisions right now so that the prices don't escalate in the future as we're waiting around thinking, well, what do we do now? I mean, we can't wait anymore. But we also have to build these schools so that people, we've had people leave. Our enrollment is down right now. Yeah. But that's the data from COVID. People have moved out because they had no backyard at their house, and they've got 4 or 5 people living, in a small, whether it's a small townhouse in Old Town or an apartment somewhere. They needed space for their kids, for their sanity, honestly. And so here, enrollment's probably gone down, or just put their kids in private school because people need to work. That is on my soapbox, that is one of the major things right now. As a former Commission for Women commissioner, we've had millions of women that have had to leave the workforce because it is on the women to take care of their families. So they can't have a career and families. This is where we've always heard, you can't have everything at the same time, women. Well, this is where we need to change that. Again, another equitable thing that the light has been shown on some inequities and inequalities. And this is the time to change those things, put it in our system and make sure that we have more childcare supports and services, not just our schools and our aftercare, but what else can we do to help all parents make sure they can get back to work and open up our economy, honestly. And that's where we are. So sorry, that was a long-winded school answer. I am so sorry, but
that's all right. We're getting down to our last few minutes, and you mentioned you graduated from Virginia Tech, and I just wanted to ask you about the Virginia Tech Innovation Campus. Yeah. I live here in Delray, and I not far from it. I am so excited about this development, even more so than Amazon. I think it is going to be such a contribution to the Alexandria community for the long run. Whether it's helping with STEM classes in the public schools, but just what it will bring into the area in terms of sheer brain power, if nothing else.
Exactly. I'm so excited. I'm thrilled. I'm just thrilled. Virginia Tech came in and it's been a couple of years now. They hit the ground running. David Baker was boots on the ground here. He was making sure Virginia Tech, for its name alone, of course, everyone knows, the college, the university in Blacksburg, but in Alexandria, Hokies have some spirit. So I know there's a lot of Hokies here in Alexandria, and and my kids are being brainwashed in that direction. But and that being said, we have a wonderful college network in Virginia, public colleges. It's amazing. Virginia's blessed in that regard. But it was great that they were doing Tech on Taps over at Port City pre-COVID, and then honestly pivoted on a dime and made a lot of that Zoom, so you could go pick up beer and then come back and have your Zoom, whatever they wanted to go over, whether it was, technology on Teslas or, farm to table agriculture that they're known for, or anything. Pick a topic, and they went into beer production and how that happens. They could anything. So, but I am so excited because, as I've said, and as the education and any educational institution, once it's there, usually lasts for almost eternity. Yeah. And with that brings all the people that want to come here to continue to learn. Now, it's for graduate students. It won't be an undergrad program right off the bat anyway. But it will bring that, like you said, a high-mindedness that also will hopefully cause people to want to stay in this area and then work, be in our workforce with what they just learned in these the innovation and technology that they are bringing, not to mention the partnerships with our schools and the partnerships with our nonprofits. I mean, we're just, it's what
it's
riches.
Great. It's great. Yeah.
Going to get out of this over and over and over again. So very excited, obviously.
Very excited. Well, we have excited ourselves right to 8:30.
No.
Doesn't take long, does it?
No.
No.
Too short.
Thank you so much for being with us. It's been terrific. If there's any last final thing you'd like to say to our viewing audience, you've got a minute.
Sure. Thank you. Well, first of all, thank you for having me tonight. I certainly appreciate this venue all the time when I get to be on this. But I also, if I would love it if I could earn your vote by June 8th. And if you want more information about me, you can go to my website, which is www.amyjacksonva.com. And there you can find out, anything, or you can get in touch with me there too. And I'll get back to you. So that would be great. And of course, I'm with the city also. So there's a city email there too. So
That's right.
I appreciate this very much. Thank you very much.
Amy.
It's always fun being here. It's always fun.
It is. We appreciate the time. For those of you who are going to stick around, in a few minutes, we'll have Bill Campbell in the studio. For those of you who have to say goodnight to us, we thank you for being here. We thank our producer, David McClure, our intern, Eli Wilcox, and as always, Mary Wadlin, with whom this would not be possible. So good night, and we'll see you again, hopefully. Bye.